This week on Yuba-Sutter.LIVE, lots of live streams, beginning with Government Watch. At 6 o'clock Tuesday, Marysville City Council, and the 6 o'clock Tuesday Yuba City Council meetings, with lots of important items on the
Thank you, Angela. All right, agenda modifications. Bear with me, I have a little cold tonight. Item 5, the Department of Water Resources Urban Drought Relief Turf Replacement Project contract award will be pulled from the consent calendar and heard as a first item of business. Presentations. First up, this is an exciting presentation. We have the Yuba City Economic Visioning. Mr. Vaughn Davies of Eastman Perkins will be presenting. I'm not sure, Robert, are you going to get this thing teed up a little bit, or? I am. Perfect. All right, here we go.
So, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Robert Bendorf, City Manager. I have with me Vaughn and Kate, both here from Perkins Eastman, that will be doing the core of the presentation tonight. I just have a couple caveats, and then I'm going to go sit in. So, what you're going to see tonight is a culmination of months of work with a firm that's known as Perkins Eastman. They're based kind of in a few places in the United States, I believe, Los Angeles and New York, and many other places, right? But they have been doing some work for us related to economic visioning, and we couldn't be more pleased with the work and what they have presented so far. But before we get into that tonight, I just wanted to throw a few caveats about the work that's been done. As a few members of your council know, you've been part of these discussions. It hasn't been shown to the full council, but we've done quite a bit of due diligence in speaking with some community groups, folks that are developers, landowners in the Yuba City area and the Sutter County area. We've spoken with our partners at Sutter County as well. They are here tonight. The acting CIO Todd Retzloff and Supervisor Baines. And what's being presented to you are concepts. And I need to make that very, very clear. It's not a for sure this is going to happen, this is where it's going to be, but it's really concepts of what's possible. So consistent with our vision statement that your council just adopted, one community, endless possibilities, a place to call home. And we think what you're going to see here embodies all of that. But again, just concepts on what's possible. I think what drove this is not only the priorities of your council, which is the key priority for us as staff to get this going and to look at these things, but also to make sure that we have a firm grasp on what it takes for tomorrow, not necessarily today. And that's what we're trying to plan for. And if future generations have opportunities and possibilities here in Yuba City and Sutter County, that's what we'd like to see, of course. And I've heard so many comments, I think, over my years of doing this work, and several since I've been with Yuba City. And those comments really relate to two items. And I know I've mentioned a few of those to your council before, but people say, hey, there's not enough money in Yuba City to support those great things. People aren't going to spend that much money. And if you had nicer amenities, fine dining, whatever you add to what we already have as successful here in Yuba City, well, there's just not enough money. I would tell you that the data shows otherwise. We have about a 1.5, I know people are tired of hearing it, but we have a $1.5 billion demand amongst about 30 categories, from retail to dining, you name it, but about 30 categories. $1.5 billion in demand. Yuba City only meets that demand with about 100 or 1 billion. So there's about a 33% gap there. But we can show, and it's evidence-based, they're spending that money elsewhere, not here. We want our families to stay local if possible. We don't want to have them have to spend money elsewhere or travel, to different locations, whether it's for shopping, dining, family activities. People say, well, why here? And I just say, why not? It makes perfect sense. The second comment that usually gets thrown my way is, well, we don't have enough space. We don't have enough land. Well, I would disagree as well. We do. And as you'll see that in the presentation, I won't go over all of that, but we've been contacted by landowners that are either in the city or on the periphery once we started talking about this, and they're very interested in taking a new approach. And that newer approach is, I think their approach has always been they partnered with the city, but we really want to be the true partner that's with you shoulder to shoulder as you're looking at master planning whatever space you have and making sure it's beneficial to our residents, our businesses, and those within the region, to be quite frank. So you'll see a combination of answers to those two questions of one, why, and two, it's possible here. And I will tell you, we're really excited at the contacts we've made, the meetings that we've had, and we're thrilled to take sort of that next step, if you will, of really lining this strategy out. Again, your vision, one community, endless possibilities, a place to call home. We think we embody that in this presentation before you tonight. And I really am excited what Vaughn and Kate have prepared for us. And I'll have them take it away unless there's any questions of me. No? Good. All right. That's all you guys should there.
Hello, it's great to be here. My name is Kate Howe, and I'm a planner and a project manager with Perkins Eastman. I've been working in sort of helping cities and advising on downtowns for most of my career, which is now about 20 years. So I'm just going to walk you through a few slides just to give you some context for our study and a little bit of what we've been hearing. And then I'm going to pass it to my colleague Vaughn, and he'll walk you through our findings and some of this preliminary ideas for a vision. So again, up here on the slide, we see this vision statement, and then also just to understand how we as outsiders are coming into Yuba City. And one of the first things that we like to do is look at first impressions, right? What do we see here that maybe those of you who live here don't see it because you're here every day? And so we'll start and walk you through some of that, and then also thinking about how it is that we create the vision. But ultimately, these are big ideas, they're conceptual, they're catalysts for change. And what would come next is really thinking about which of these ideas really have legs to move forward. So many of the ideas that Vaughn will walk you through lead back to this slide here. This is an overview. So this looks at the overall, it's an aerial view of the city, and you can see each of those different colors represent sites. We like to call those as opportunity sites or catalyst sites that are open for new ideas. And you'll see also the green dotted line through there. That's actually what we see as this connector, Greenway Connector Trail. And so each of these different colored sites really blend. It's sort of like a necklace, right? Each of these different sites adds on to each other. And so what we're asking to do is really think holistically about reshaping the downtown. So when we've been here a few times, and we did a series of interviews with stakeholders. Some of you are here today, and thank you for being here. And we actually heard a lot of consensus from folks, and we heard a lot of what Mr. Benhoff just talked about, but this notion of strengthening downtown as a vibrant local destination, so residents choose to stay, shop, and spend within that community as opposed to going elsewhere. Treating downtown as an ecosystem, a mix of smaller scale development, retail, dining, entertainment. Folks were pretty excited about this idea of catalyst sites, so sort of focusing your energy on these specific sites to move forward. You know, I think you do have some ongoing planning processes that this can inform. So if we think about this as something that leads into future planning work with updates to your zoning code and your general plan, so we're leveraging opportunity. And so the last bullet is really acknowledging that you've seen a lot of growth and a lot of housing. And some of what we're going to talk about today is how to shift some of that focus to those supporting amenities around place creation. So this is a land use map, if you're not familiar with it. This is your current higher density and commercial zones are shown in the purple there. And so one of the things that those colored boxes that we saw on the earlier slide, many of them are within that darker purple zone. The way your land use code works right now is it's something called Euclidean. So it's really focused on uses, and it's focused on separating uses. One of the things that we have the opportunity to think about is how do we mix up those uses so we get those different kinds of place creation that really thrive when you're having people there and you're having retail and you're having entertainment. You're really creating a more holistic environment. And so that's one of the things that we have the opportunity to talk about after this particular visioning session is complete. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Vaughn. Here you go.
Thank you, Kate. Good evening, everybody. We're thrilled to be here and share some of these big ideas. As you've heard from others, this is about sort of a big vision. Some ideas might be easy and simple and pragmatic, and others are visionary, but we need to balance those as we move forward. So these are first ideas, first impressions. Oftentimes we're drawing in different locations and we're thinking about how we thread the needle, how they all connect. It's about curating the future of Yuba City and really thinking about what your heyday will be moving forward in generations to come. So we're not designing in a vacuum. We also believe that everything that you do here that's successful will make the region successful, that your neighbors and cities around you will benefit, and that we should think of this as a whole because we want to be complementing what's happening in other neighborhoods and other communities while moving forward on our own. You're already known as a great destination or a great launching off pad for all the regional destinations in the area. And people come here for their beauty. They come here for the abundance of the neighborhood. And they use you as that place to come through to go elsewhere. We want to change that dynamic so that the arrows all point inward and people stay longer. They have an opportunity to spend a second day or a third day here, and they spend it in downtown. They spend it in the community. They have a dinner here that they might have in the past gone somewhere else for, and really grow that community so incrementally. In order to do it, I think we need to look back to the past and to the future. You've spent an inordinate amount of time controlling the river and maybe forgotten that it actually is a beautiful asset and that we have waterfronts here. This is a waterfront city like many of the Delta cities in California, and we need to refocus, I think, so we take some of that splendor and joy that comes from the people who are out in nature, bring it into the city and be able to observe the river and participate in the river and the waterfront as part of that community. There is an abandoned right-of-way, the rail line that used to run through the center of the city. That was the green line Kate showed you on the original abstract map. We think you need to take the bull by the horns and you need to own that. You need to move forward with that. It's a connector. It's an opportunity that touches on many of the sites that we'll look at today. So this ribbon of green could really be a great differentiator that connects you to a levee system that already connects north-south, and we can enhance that, but goes westward out into the abundance of the agriculture community that you so well known for. It also comes back into the city, and as it comes into the city, it's close to 6 schools. We see no reason why the city shouldn't really promote itself and eventually be the city with the 6 best schools in the neighborhood, the best in the destination. If you want people living here, we need to have the best schools, and so it's a great sort of benchmark to reach for, but we should really make ourselves a wonderful city. So all the big ideas sort of come together, and we'll keep coming back to those and testing those. They're sort of listed here, but you heard me just mention them. We want to be a destination. We want to have people spending their money and spending their time. Time equals money in this city. So we've got to find those good reasons to be here. We initially looked at 10 sites. We focused on 5 of them in a little bit more detail that we'll share with you today. They're in the circle here, but many of the sites are very large, 25 acres, 60 acres, etc. We talk about numbers, but we don't really know what fits on those. So as urban designers, we're going to show you a little bit of what might fit on those. In the downtown, this first site, we're calling it, whenever we do anything in a city, we want to reinforce what the origin of the city is. And you've spent a lot of time on Plumas. We see Plumas as the successful phase 1 of this vision, quite frankly. You've just spent time and effort on the Tower Park. And so we want to really reinforce that. And everything should come back to Plumas Avenue in the downtown. But how do we get to the water, and how do we connect those neighborhoods into Plumas Street and beyond that to the waterfront and the levee? We think Tea Garden Street is a wonderful candidate street for that, to really improve, to take down power lines, to bury the power lines, to enhance the street with great landscaping and make it that next walkable district that extends Plumas to the waterfront, and do something really fun and spectacular on the waterfront. Celebrate. We're showing the big why here. Why don't we have this great spectacular opportunity to be at the waterfront and climb the levee, see over the levee, and participate in that future, to watch the floods even when they come down, and to see the water rise, and to boat and see people down in the waterfront. So a truly wonderful spectacle that really Yuba City could own as their great next icon on the waterfront. And then come back and look at the land around it and think about this being a district, not just one element that happens on the waterfront, but how can that benefit the development of all the sites around it? And there's some candidate sites here that we think are great, that will then create the sense of there being a complete idea about the levee, a levee district perhaps, that could be Yuba City's next great place on the waterfront. And when you look at it coming in from the city, you can't see the river from the bridges. You can't see Yuba City. We want something to rise up above the levee so you really see it. These could be apartments. These could be condos. These could be live workspaces on the waterfront. There could be a great hotel. We see no reason why there shouldn't be a white tablecloth hotel here with restaurants that's spread out and onto a great promenade, a walking promenade along the levee system as well. And you see that in these slides. And then when you put it all together, the development opportunity is very self-evident, that you're improving the street, that you see leading from Plumas here out to the waterfront. And then 2nd Street becomes a candidate street to be a new address at the levee edge with all these wonderful new developments, perhaps new residential neighborhoods for a mix of uses of senior and market rate housing, shown by the yellow dots here. The colored dots of purple and red are more commercial uses in the hotel that are set back from the levee, but they're tall enough that on the upper levels, the 2nd and 3rd levels and the podiums, they're looking out over the waterfront and part of that great experience of the waterfront. So we think a great postcard image that we should really search for the city as you enter and arrive, crossing the river and entering into the city. The second site we're going to look at, and I'm going to have to speed up here to go through these, is the triangle site we're calling it. It's a series of sheds and warehouses that are along Bridge Street, which has already had some significant street improvements and commitments. You can see by this wedge shape here, as it extends back into the city, it actually arrives at the Tower Gateway site. And so really this could be an extension of Plumas Avenue and what you've already spent money and time on in downtown, and rethink those sheds. They're a great asset, and other cities have led the way throughout California and the country, showing that these can be great entrepreneurial spaces for businesses, for incubator space, but also just fun spaces to live in and work in. So we think we should mix up all the uses here, as Kate said, and again, have residential, entertainment spaces, event spaces, perhaps a great outdoor nursery or garden that starts to utilize the right of way that we want to get back from the rail company, but connected back into Tower Plaza and where the Bridge Street Elementary School is, perhaps involve kids in the brainstorming and thinking about this, so the next generation is already peppered with ideas and they're sharing ideas, because whatever we do is going to be for that next generation. It's not going to be for many of us, myself included. Maybe I'm too old, but there's next generations, and that's that legacy type project that we want to create for the city. It's about small intrusions, small little gems that we can do along the way, but we can also look at our neighbors, at some of the other great things that are happening in other cities, and borrow ideas from that to celebrate the bounty of Yuba City and Yuba County in these developments, like the public markets in Oxbow and Reading Market, which I'm sure many of you have already visited. The third site is really what's highlighted in the middle here. It's the Kmart site, county-owned property up against the Green Line again that we're calling it. It's on Golden State Highway. It's surrounded by automobile dealers and many, many hotels, as you see here, that are already developing, and a new one that's being developed across the way on Civic Center Drive, Spring Hill Suites, and across the way, the shopping center, which is very, very well used, and is an opportunity for to tie all of this together with Sam Brannan Park, Gray Middle School, and think about this as another great neighborhood district. So this image turns it around a little bit. You see Gray and Gray Avenue and Middle School on the left-hand side. The Kmart site would be the next one next to the diagonal green. Calusa Avenue is the parallel to double green line in the middle, connected to the anchor on the other side of the street, which is the existing mall, which we think could be upgraded and create a really beautiful walking environment that complements the indoor space on the one side in the mall with an outdoor walking environment on the other. And again, we're borrowing from lessons learned with other cities and other places. We're not reinventing necessarily, but you see this all over Southern California, sort of a desire to really spend a day like today, which is a perfect California day in Yuba City, to be able to stroll and walk the street and be there at lunchtime or in the evening with families and kids and really restore that sort of community spirit in that part of town. So we think it's not a far reach. It's going to be challenging. I mean, you talk to all the land users around it and property owners, but we think this is an opportunity to do a really signature element right there on Calusa, right on Golden State Highway. It could be, again, a great corner in the city that really celebrates the city. It could have seasonal events. We think a skating rink here in winter that is a pop-up skating rink would be fantastic. We think some big fountains, perhaps, or a water element along Calusa to really announce the fact that the highway is changing. It's no longer going to be the separator and divider in the city, a busy road. We're just going to celebrate that. We have a lot of people coming here, a lot of eyeballs on the street, and we should take advantage of that. The fourth site at the top left-hand corner here is a site that is about 62 acres, the hardest site. And as Robert mentioned, we sometimes don't understand how big sites are. So we use this site really as a demonstration to understand what it is that we see. Right now, it's a super block. The only way you can experience it is driving around the edges of the site and not really getting a sense of what's in the site or the opportunity. And we think we should take the bull by the horns and just sort of test out how big could this be. So one of the things we do as urban designers, we look around and we understand that everybody here loves going to Roseville and spending their money there, and we need to get you to spend your money here instead. So we looked at Roseville and the attributes of Roseville. It's a fairly simple model, a parking lot with the buildings, the retail in between. Takes up a lot of square footage, we think, but we were surprised by doing a scale overlay. There's two plans, the same size, same scale, Roseville Galleria on the left-hand side and the hardest site on the right-hand side, and you'll notice that you can do all of that on the site and you'll have leftover space. So again, there's a huge opportunity, and it's not to say we're going to copy Roseville. We're not going to be able to compete at that level because we're a smaller community, but we can do something just as substantive and impressive with the site. It's a very big site. We looked at the fountains, which I'm sure you're also familiar with, to sort of scale back a little bit and say, what about the fountains as a relevant example? And again, here you see a scale comparison of the fountains on the left and on the right-hand side overlaid on our side. And again, it's shrunk down, it's smaller, but it's a huge opportunity. You can see it, the fountains has all its parking within that white envelope and all the retail. We think we can do that and have a residential neighborhood with other uses around it, perhaps sports elements, etc. as well. Further afield, we looked at Napa. Shockingly, we discovered that all of the heart of Napa, the historic core of the city, is 65 acres, same size as our site. So you put the two together here and side by side, and you can see Napa on the left and our site again on the right-hand side. And what really makes Napa, the downtown, a joyful place to be is because it has smaller streets, smaller blocks, and involved in that is a lot of discovery that you don't have today with a singular big urban site that's 65 acres with a perimeter road, a super block. So when you think of doing urban development, you want to cut it up into smaller, manageable pieces. They can be developed over time, block by block by block, or we can do some elements of a plan that require multiple blocks at a time, but you want to create that density and that urban network of walking and experience. We also looked at things, the sports anchored opportunity on the site. On the bottom left-hand corner there is a little plan of the San Bernardino Sports Complex, probably one of the most successful sports complexes in all of California. You're a sports-rich community. Everybody we've spoken to has kids who their parents are spending a lot of money driving them somewhere else, buying goods for them to do their sports, and you should celebrate that sports here in your community. So we think there's an opportunity here to do something really, really impressive that could really be a county asset and maybe a state asset around sports. So on the right-hand side, you see your site again. With the sports fields there, soccer fields. Again, a simple pad, essentially. There's not a lot of infrastructure required for that. And we would still have development opportunities for what the red dots are there. Red squares are entertainment uses, maybe some indoor facilities that go with gaming and sports, etc. But thinking again about a district, how do you really use one idea to propagate an area as a catalyst and then develop the entire district? And then we just wanted to share some images of other projects that we've done and looked at where water is an element, where there could be a temporary seasonal skating rink again, where the soccer could be integrated with residential around it. So families are living there and using it almost as their front door in their park on off-peak hours. And then on weekends and other days, it's an event space. So these are a lot of big ideas. We came back to downtown with Site 5, and very quickly we wanted to look at the fairgrounds and the aquatic park that you have, Garsha Aquatic Park, and think again about how do you build on the investment you've already made with Sutter and the hospitals on Plumas as it extends south, and think we know there's some soft sites that are going to be redeveloped over time. There's a new hotel that's recently been built. We think there's an opportunity for more hospitality there. When they had the cattle folks in town this last weekend, every hotel was booked. So there's an opportunity to drive the events business here in the fairgrounds with modern contemporary approaches to agriculture and perhaps piggybacking a new hotel on Gausch Park, so creating a water park / hotel. And there are developers who do those types of things. And then looking at the streets that connect to the riverfront, B and C, which pass the site number 10, which is where the county has the courthouses, a beautiful historic district with a contemporary, more modernistic building across the way. And that's the area that connects northward up to the levee. So really thinking about how do we get up to the levee at this point again, like we did in the downtown, and then connect 2nd Street and connect the entire levee as a series of districts and interventions along the way. The hotel that we mentioned would be something like a Great Wolf Lodge, a very family-oriented hotel, which would really drive, we think, the events that happen at the fairgrounds. We call it the Agritech Park right now. Every fairground in America is having to reinvest in itself and reimagine itself. So this is a partnership opportunity again with the county. You're known as the origin of flight, and we should celebrate that. I know there are interests in doing a Yuba County Museum, perhaps including that into this park and finding a site here that could also be part of the levee and part of that district. Might be a wonderful idea. And then what does an old building look like when it's refreshed over time? You all know the county building here. We think there's an opportunity for a hotel or housing or an upscale market housing project or hotel, a lower level of marketplace uses perhaps that could occupy the ground floor. So there's an abundance of opportunities here, whether they're single buildings or entire districts. And then we want to tie it all back into, as Kate said, the overall idea of curating the future of Yuba City. There's a summary of this district, of some of the opportunities that we just talked about. And then I'll just leave you with a reminder of this image, as you can imagine all of those different sites that we've looked at and picture them as a whole in a totality. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years from now, we've made some great progress and you're on to having the next great heyday for Yuba City. How do we get that done? As Kate mentioned, it's going to take patience, but there are a lot of initiatives in the city already that we can tie into. So whether it's about developing further concept plans for some of these with some of the landowners in the city and the county, or whether it's looking at entitlements that could be advanced ahead of time through some of the code plans and the general plan by rezoning things, we think there's an opportunity for everybody to work hand in hand, but we need to start today to get to somewhere in the future. I'll end there and ask you for your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. I think that this is the third time I think Mike and I have seen this, and every time it brings something new and exciting and envisioning. And so to Vaughn and Kate, thank you for presenting this. I think at this point, I'd invite comments from the rest of the council. Before we open it up, I know there's some folks here in the public that have been engaged in the process as well that are wanting to speak. So
through the mayor.
Yes.
Vaughn, I know it gets very confusing. Yuba City is not in Yuba County, and you refer to Yuba County several times, which it will ruffle feathers, just so that you know. It is totally confusing. Yuba City's in Sutter County.
Thank you.
I may have had something to do with that. My apologies.
Are you eyeballing him over there? No, like the mayor said, I've seen this 3 times now. And on a personal note, tomorrow my wife is going to a district down in Loomis that did the very thing that you talk about in that triangle going down to High Hand. That gentleman has taken old buildings one right after the other and made bars and venues and food, and it works. And she is going tomorrow. And to my chagrin, she's leaving the community to go spend money. However, personally, all of these things that I've seen are just tremendous ideas, and I know they do work. I think probably for me, the perspective of taking it and doing the sports complex to start bringing those people in so that it just starts growing, because there's people in this room that take their kids on all these travel balls and spend nights and food and all of those things. And I think if we take steps like that, instead of taking big bites, that doing something that, like you said, is just an overlay of an area and putting in sports complexes, for me, is a direction that I would like to see that we really, really start talking hard about in our community. So with that, thank you, Mayor.
Through the mayor. I think sometimes at the local level, especially, a lot of things don't ever happen because it's like instant gratification. If we can't see the results right now, then we just don't even start. And so I appreciate this, Robert, for having the vision, and our city staff. Thank you for the study. I think it's definitely doable. It's just something that we have to use patience in and have that vision for. Really, if you look at any civilization or society, the best things happen over a very long time. And this might not be for us, but we're not leading for us right now. We're leading for people here tomorrow. So I think it's exciting, but I would definitely echo Mike. And as you said, our families here with children are very much sports minded, soccer and youth football, basketball, baseball, you name it. So I think if this is one of those situations with the sports in mind, if you build it, they will come, and then the rest will follow. So thank you.
I would add, if you build it, they will stay.
Yes. Stay a while.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Thank you for that presentation. And Robert, thank you for presenting this opportunity. When I participated in the tour with you folks a couple months ago, I was knocked sideways. It's refreshing to see a point of view of somebody who hasn't grown up here and hasn't heard the word no, or you can't do that. It is interesting to see the public's reaction when a group of people with suits walk around. Business owners get phone calls, right, Sandy? We made a few folks nervous, but that's okay. But to the Vice Mayor's point, to Councilmember Cole's point, this is a sorely needed, with the sports between Blackburn, Tally, Peach Bowl, Sutter Buttes. We're a baseball town, and we need to keep folks from leaving our area and spending their money elsewhere and keeping it here. And even down to the river bottoms, I think those soccer fields are getting kind of cramped on the weekends too. So there's a lot of opportunities. The biggest part of this is that UP right away, and that's going to be the big one. But through all things, and then in addition to that, which was pointed out, was the fairgrounds opportunity. And I think moving forward, with Hard Rock moving in that direction of purchasing property out in Yuba County, zoned fairgrounds. So I think that will probably open up an opportunity on our side to do some development. But I love everything I see. So thank you.
The mayor. Vaughn, thank you for bringing this. Before I start with my comments, I want to ask you a question, Mr. Mayor, based upon your comments. Is James Earl Jones coming back as well? So anyway, on that, what I like about this whole process, and, you know, I've been here in California, here in Yuba City, about 37 years or so. And I've heard all the things that Robert talked about in the initial, since I've been here. You know, it's like, we can't do it. We don't have the resources. You know, it just, all those things. But I've also seen something out of the city that I'm very glad is changing now. And that is, we've been focused for decades at the micro level, and this is the macro level. This is not only showing us what the downtown can be, but this is showing us what the downtown can be as it expands and how it can tie into the rest of the community. And it's actually a well thought through dream. And we have a lot of dilapidated buildings just sitting around throughout the city. I mean, you hit right there on Bridge Street, those old warehouses that are there. They still do use some of those, but boy, wouldn't that be nice if we was able to expand the downtown around and create a nice walkway through there and drive more things such as the housing and the restaurants and such. You know, the question that I would have for you, and I know we talked about this as we've met, is, you know, this starts the concept, but, you know, what do you have to say to those that we've heard for 40 years that resources isn't here, people won't do this? You know, we don't have that. How do you get the property owners to get off High Center? Because we have a lot of legacy property owners here, that many of those, even in the Plumas region, Plumas Street region, has gone down through the generations, and they're not even local anymore. They have somebody taking care of it, and we've got the one building. I'm sorry, Sandy, help me. It's the dialysis center, right? That's still burnt. It's an empty building that's, I don't know, several thousand square feet. That's a perfect location for restaurant, nightlife, right there on the corner to add to that whole dynamic of the downtown. How do you take this, which is great, and convey that to those people that are holding on to properties that are eyesores to the city to actually become a part of this?
I don't know that I have an answer for every building, but I think there's a great advantage in having a big vision and a big idea. Number one, it gets the community realizing there's added value when you work in unison. A single site on its own is really responding just to the market today and what's out there. When you put it in a longer framework, and you say that we're working in unison, and you see all of this together, Yuba City is going to be, it will be the next heyday 20 years from now if we accomplish even half of what we're showing you today. So I think you need to get the message out to the development community that this is time to change, and we're changing now, and you're going to be left behind if you're not here at the table, bringing these conversations to the table. So, you know, sending the message to the community through RFIs, through publicity, through a whole lot of other means, and then really corralling the local landowners and going out, and if you have to knock on doors, we need to knock on doors to ask people and show them and share these ideas with them and see if they're going to partner.
Thank you.
I think one of the sports complex thing obviously makes a lot of sense. Again, if you build it, they will stay. There's a lot of activity there, and the comments that were made about that, you know, that may get the ball rolling because it's, as you mentioned, it's easier, probably infrastructure wise, to get something like that going. But these other attributes, if you will, that you would add in, I think, you know, it's getting the vision, getting them the momentum going. And I think that even the little blurb that we put on social media, Josh Wolf, our public works director, put out about a sports complex, even though it wasn't going to necessarily be cited where it was, that thing created one heck of a buzz and a positive buzz. So to your point, I think, you know, you start throwing some of this stuff out here and you get people energized, and maybe that gets the ball rolling. But again, good stuff. And we can just sit back and wait to see what comes, or we can help drive it. And I think you have a council and a staff, especially in Doug Libby and Robert, et cetera, that are trying to create the avenues to expedite some of this stuff as well, because that's where the city can be a partner with the local landowner. At this point, I'd like to invite any of those folks who've been a party to the discussions that have been presented by Perkins and Eastman to come up and offer their comments as well. And I see Mr. Cassidy is likely going to lead the way there, but anybody else as well, I hope.
Mr. Mayor, while John's making his way up, if you don't mind, it's rare that somebody interrupts John and John anyway. So I don't know if I got that right, but regardless, I appreciate council's comments and thank you so much for all your support. And I know Doug really appreciates it, and so do I, as well as your executive team. So this wasn't done in a vacuum either. When I first made the call to Perkins Eastman to see if they were interested in doing some of this work for us, they came highly recommended. And we started the discussion. And I think early on, those discussions really focused on, hey, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? And, some great comments have come out of the meetings that we had. One in particular that I wanted to tell you about. Again, these are concepts only, but it's identifying what's possible here. So we do have a vision and we can grasp onto. And Mr. Mayor, if you'll recall in your strategic plan and the rest of the council, when we started this, you identified about 8 items within economic development, one of your focus areas. This touches on at least 6 of them, of what you're trying to do now. So it's consistent with the priorities that you've set forward in future planning. Now we're acting on it, and then hopefully we'll take it a step further after that. So again, I just want to reiterate, say thank you to the council for doing this, but I'm going to drive back to one comment that I heard today. I have a city manager advisory group made up of citizens, business owners, et cetera, only about 10 folks or so. And we started meeting, met a couple times. Second time we met was involving this presentation. And we heard a lot about the sports. And one of the comments that we had, one of the comments led to a discussion about, hey, it's all connected. And this person that sits on that advisory group said, hey, look at youth sports. It's not all about just us traveling somewhere else for tournaments and her kids play competitive sports, but it's everything that comes along with that. And I would submit to you that if you had a regional sports complex, I'll give you a couple examples. People go out and buy bats or cleats. They forgot pads. They forgot something. And our gap that we have here as it relates to sporting goods, what I referred to earlier, there's a gap between demand and supply of about 66%. 66% of the demand is not being met for sporting goods. And we're talking the baseball, softball, soccer, and they're going somewhere else to make those purchases. But if you have a complex here, then that gives rise to a sporting goods type store that's big enough that can handle that volume. But we certainly have a void there. The second thing I would mention, then I'll stop, is it's not only where people go to maybe buy sporting goods, but if you take the indoor facility that is just down the road about 35, 40 minutes, volleyball, basketball, you get dozens upon dozens of teams on a weekend. Girls volleyball, girls or boys basketball, this indoor sports complex, if you will, that's in the Sunset Industrial area. So on a day when they had a couple tournaments, it was interesting. All those hotels are all booked up along 65. And I happened to be wandering over to Topgolf, and the bays were booked up for 45 minutes to an hour. And I thought, well, this is kind of weird. It's not really a busy time of the day, but I looked out there and it was all the kids that were playing in those tournaments. Their families were taking them to do something tonight. They have food there, they have activity, they have a little fun. And all the bays were scooped up by these teenagers boys and girls that are playing in these tournaments at that big sports complex. So again, they're feeding the economy, not just with sporting goods, not visiting those sites, food, drink, whatever it may be. And so again, we know we're a few steps away from that, but you have to start somewhere. So I appreciate your council's patience and due diligence in getting this going, but I more so appreciate the vision that you set forth in your plan, and that you have our guarantee as staff will keep the pedal pressed to the floorboard and making sure we get some of these things accomplished sooner rather than later.
I got to follow that.
Yes.
First of all, thank you for entertaining concepts. Thank you for coming up and being the folks that are up on the hill looking at these guys that are paddling in the river. It's hard to see what's around the corner potentially when you're constantly grinding. And all these folks have been grinding in this community to do good things for a long period of time, as have many others who sat in those seats before them, and some folks that sat in Robert's seat before them. But it's really hard unless you get people with a different perspective that are taking snapshots from a different viewpoint. So thank you for bringing those concepts. And Sandy, thank you for being here, the Queen of Plumas Street. Plumas has become one of the big subject matters because that's a real downtown corridor that's pretty awesome. Mr. Foltz deserves credit for sticking his neck out on that one, as well as the council and your husband, Mr. Barkhouse, and all those good people that tried to take Yuba City to a different place. And Plumas Street's one shining example. There's a lot of potential there still, but this is an amazing area and it's busy all the time. And there's actually some good food down there. So I just want to tell the council a couple things. One, I spent a lot of time in Reading. Folks know I have a houseboat up there. I spent a lot of time there. We had offices there with Sierra Central when I was CEO. And it took them, you guys talked about incremental steps, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Tony, I love you to death, but I want to be alive and see some of this stuff happen before I die, even though I'm a lot older than you. So Reading took its complete downtown, gutted it, turned it over, and turned it into its own marketplace that has just been, they've won national awards. It took them 10 years. So nothing's impossible. And I love obviously the sports aspect of this, as you all know. In fact, Mr. Presley Harrell was the one that started Hardwood Palace down there and the Sunset Development in Roseville, Rockland. And he had to get out of it after 10, 15 years and sell it because it wore him out. They were so busy 7 days a week. It's insane how many kids go through there. So all the aspects of the concepts are phenomenal. Your focus, in my opinion, needs to be that there's a $500 million gap that Robert talked about. That's just the opportunity that doesn't get discussed enough. And keeping people here so Carm doesn't go to lunch down in Roseville, but goes here, or doesn't go to Grass Valley, stays here. Carm likes to eat, but he has good taste. Wants really good places here. The other thing that gets overlooked and not talked about enough, but I think needs to be part of this communication, is we're 35 to 40 minutes from an international airport that's really easy to get in and out of. We probably have the best access points of any region around Sacramento that use that airport. And if you didn't realize this, the fastest growing number of customers for that airport are coming from the Bay Area, because the access and the quality of the experience is so much better there than in San Francisco, Oakland, or San Jose. So those people will eventually look a little north too. So there's more opportunity to get developers up here. Make sure I don't miss anything. Yeah, love the fact that you're looking at leveraging the downtown, because as I've said for on it, beat on Robert a long time, I think we have one of the best local restaurant districts where there's so much different varieties of food and experiences available in one little 3 or 4 block area that gets overlooked too often and can be expanded all the way down to the river and some of the other conceptual things here. So I'll close with these 2 things. You're the right council and the right leadership and the right team in the city at the right time to get this stuff done. You have to start somewhere. That's been a comment made by the mayor, by Robert. I think whatever the first steps are, 10 years is not that long a period of time. And I would, if you haven't been to Reading, or if you haven't been to downtown Livermore, which is identical to Plumas Street, but is a little bit further along and in really getting leveraged, I suggest that you go to those places and take a look, because the possibilities are endless and you just have to step out there. And I applaud Robert for bringing the energy and the vision, and the council for looking at, hey, we got to get to that next level, and we got to get there at some point. And now is a pretty good time to start. So I thank you on behalf of one citizen. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you, John. I think it's important to add that, we're not doing, as been mentioned, we're not doing this in a vacuum. And, we know that some of the projects that are going to take private help, but also our friends in the county. And so, and they have been participants in the presentations with Perkins Eastman. I don't know if Supervisor Baines or County Administrative Officer Retzloff has any comment, but we're happy that you're here again to hear this. If, we as a city stand very, very ready to work as your partner in developing what's best for our city, our region, our county especially. So that doesn't look like they want to talk, so that's okay too. No. Thank you, Todd.
After John's been here, I got to drop it like 5 feet. I was wondering where the step stool was, but they left that in the back. Anyway, Todd Retzloff, acting CAO for Sutter County, along with Supervisor Baines, Honorable Mayor, Council, Robert, staff. Obviously, you guys are on the right track. Sutter County, Yuba City, we're all one community. I love hearing that over and over again, because it doesn't matter if you're somebody in the little town of Robbins, up at Live Oak, Pleasant Grove, we all come to our community, right? We all come to the downtown. We come here, our kids are here, right? If you travel out, you travel through our county, which is our community, to go somewhere else. And the concepts that you guys have come up with, amazing. And you were talking about, John, the right team. Doug Libby, amazing. He was amazing at the county, and I know he's going to be amazing at the city with what he's going to do. Changing the zoning policies, we both have to do that, both sides. The county's got to do it, the city's got to do it, because the vision that you guys are having is for our community, and it just expands out regardless. And so we just appreciate the fact that, you're allowing us to be part of this, and we hope that we can find ways to keep working together and move our community forward. So anyway, I appreciate your time, and thank you for having us here.
Thank you, Mr. Retzloff. Definitely looking forward to continuing working together with the county, especially as it relates to doing things for the community. Really appreciate that. Looks like the Queen of Plymouth Street is approaching. Well, it's really got to go low now.
I don't know if I'm queen. I know, I got to go way lower, Todd. You thought you had it bad, Todd. All right, I do need a step stool, though. All right, no help, John. Hi, my name is Sandy Drown, and for those who don't know me, my husband and I own the Happy Viking, and I'm also on the Yuba City Downtown Board. I just wanted to thank Robert for leading this project. Fabulous job. Thanks for getting a group of community people to sit and listen. This, I think, is my third time watching this presentation, and it's a lot to take in. And then the consultants it's always great to have outside perspective, because I think as a small community, we take pride that we're a small community, but sometimes we just miss the gems that are right in front of us. And so thank you for all of your hard work on that. I just wanted to share that that $2 million grant that happened for downtown was a call from Brad McIntyre of just asking for ideas from the downtown. And of course, we had a budget of $5,000. And so we were over aggressive, and we came up with some, and threw some ideas with the city. But it's amazing when you watch the government and the community, small business owners, get together and actually just collaborate, right? It's not you against us. And that has really been a great thing. And I watched that project happen, and we've got like an opportunity and a momentum to continue that. There's a ton of opportunity. I just wanted to just highlight on a couple of things. I know that Councilman Shaw mentioned about property owners. And I think like with this idea, there are property owners that just don't even know what to do with their property, right? So they're sitting there. Imagine when you take an idea like this and you present that to them. I know we have a little tiny 2,000 square foot dirt lot, but if I would have had somebody come to Chris or I and present us with an idea that they had as a concept to make Plymouth Street even better, it just makes it more valuable. And I think that's a lot of it is communication and collaborating, right? Nobody's winning. We're all winning together. And so those were just kind of my thoughts. I know it's a lot of big ideas, so I know that it's going to take a little bit for the community to grab their arms around. But I think there is a lot of low-hanging fruit, like Mark had mentioned, our mayor had mentioned, that if we start there, right, you got to start somewhere. And I just think that this is a great opportunity. So I want to thank Robert, the mayor, and the council for giving me this opportunity to speak, and for the consultants for bringing some really great ideas and making us think big. So thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Anybody else? All right. Again, thank you. I'm sure this isn't, no, it's not the last we'll be seeing of Perkins Eastman, and we really appreciate the work. All right. Next item on our agenda is the Major Pavement Repair Project Strategy, and we are going to hear from our Public Works Director, Josh Wolf.
So before Josh starts off on this, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I wanted to thank Josh. I mean, he's taking some of our discussions that we've had, and he's turned it into actual concepts that could really benefit the city in a really big way. We know roads are an issue, again, identified in your strategic plan. It's a top priority to get moving on. And we're excited about that. But at the same time, we've got restrictions. And so it's time to about, where we get revenue from to fix it. And the list goes on. And it's a tall order to fill. But consistent with the last presentation, and the similarity with this one, just trying something different. And we're just floating the concepts out before the council. This is your direction to staff. We're trying to fill that jar up, if you will, and return it to you with some concepts and ideas. And that's the hope here of what Josh will be presenting. But he's gotten so creative with the direction that we talked about, and you'll hear more in just a second. But I just wanted to thank him, thank your council, because the priorities that you set, we're taking this document serious. It's not just sitting on a shelf somewhere, and we're really trying to fulfill the order and direction that you have provided to us. So, having said that, Josh, take it away.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Mayor and Council. So, like Robert said, we have a pretty large order against us in terms of the road conditions in Yuba City. And in order to be able to start tackling that, we need to, like Robert and Council have said, not just think outside the box, but get entirely out of the box. So this is kind of what that presentation is. So to start off, I just wanted to give everyone kind of an idea of what exactly our roadway system consists of. So the city has about 255 centerline miles of roadway, which turns into about 525 actual lane miles of road. Total area, about 1,180 acres. And over that area, we have a variety of different pavement conditions. You'll see this term here, pavement condition index, or PCI. That's a scale of 0 to 100 that basically rates what the condition of the roadway is, with 0 being a road that's completely failed, 100 being brand new road. So the average pavement condition over all roads in Yuba City is a 47. If you look at arterials, roads like Bridge Street, Garden Highway, 46 centerline miles, 284 acres, PCI is about 50. Collectors, these are more of the roads in between the arterials and the residential areas, kind of getting you to those main thoroughfares. It's the smallest amount of roadway, or smallest quantity of roadways in Yuba City, but they have the poorest pavement condition index at 34. And then you get in the local and residential, it mirrors more of the total pavement condition index, with pavement condition index of 48. So just to give a few visual examples, very good on the left here is looking at Bridge Street, the most recently paved road in Yuba City. Its number would be closer to 100. As you go to the right, you could see the different grades. So very good, good, poor, and failed, good being Lassen Boulevard. You can kind of see here, there's some minor cracking happening longitudinal and transversely, but nothing major. Then you get into Queens Avenue, Live Oak Boulevard. You're starting to see some pop outs in the roadway, some major cracks. And then finally into some of the worst areas like South Walton Avenue. You have areas that have completely blown out and we've had to fill with temporary paving material. This isn't something that is isolated. As you can see, we have conditions like this all over the road or all over the city. This map over here on the right is our current pavement map. These colors represent the different conditions, with green being very good areas, blue being good, orange being poor, and red being in the very poor or failed state. So you notice most of the reds in the eastern side, eastern side, the older part of town, but it's kind of all over. There's a lot of orange on that map, and we need to come up with a creative way to start turning this map more green. So actions to date, Robert really wanted us to start looking into ideas of how can we address this. We've kind of been going at it in a reactive manner, going for as many grants as we can, but there's only so many grant dollars that are out there for us. We have a limited budget, so what can we do? So he initiated a call with our financial advisor to see what options there may be in terms of bond funding. What resulted from that conversation was an initial range that we were willing to, that we felt may be appropriate, of a $12 million bond, which would come out to about a $1.5 million annual debt service. So after that meeting, Robert gave some very clear direction, 3 items. First, determine what the project size would be. How much can we get with $12 million? Second, figure out how much annual debt service that the city can handle from year to year. And then lastly, come up with strategies to maximize pavement repair with the said $12 million budget. So from that, we ran. First question, how much pavement repair can be done with 12 million? That answer varies a lot depending on what you're trying to do. So I'll give you 2 polar opposite answers. Option 1, major road repairs. You're thinking 3-inch depth, grind the road down and pave with new asphalt. When you look at that, all factors included, including things that you have to do regulatorily, like replacing curb ramps, restriping, signal repairs to the loops that are in the road, the dollar amount comes out to about 6 centerline miles or 14 lane miles of roadway. Roughly half a mile of major road roughly you'd get half a mile out of a major road repair per $1 million. Option 2, preventative maintenance. A lot cheaper, but it doesn't bring the PCI up. It's good at maintaining the good roads. Roadway addressed, you can get about 46 centerline miles or 92 lane miles, about almost 4 miles of preventative maintenance per $1 million. So you kind of have to read between the lines and see what the happy medium would be here. Debt service capacity. We performed a 3-year audit looking back at the capital improvement revenues and expenditures. The goals of that audit being, let's maximize the major road project size, get as much as we can out of it, really stretch that dollar. Then let's avoid funding shortfalls for the regular capital and maintenance projects and grant funded capital projects. Just because we want to have an ambitious large project, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot in terms of the day-to-day projects that we have or the commitments that we may have for future grants. So we want to make sure we can operate as we are now, but still get as much as large of a major repair project as we can. So based on that, we recommend up to about a $2 million annual debt service. Additionally, we might consider looking at the capital improvement plan budget to see if there are existing capital projects that may be able to reallocate funds towards this project kind of as an initial investment rather than loan repayment. So from that, the recommendations that staff had through these investigations were, let's pursue a major rehabilitation project somewhere in the $12 to $14 million range. Let's continue to budget annually for $1.5 million in preventative maintenance. That way we're stretching the dollars further. Let's plan strategically with our public works maintenance staff, make sure that we're providing them keeping them apprised of the projects that we're planning on doing, like the resurfacing projects that need crack sealing and dig out repairs prior to work, so we can get them to work collaboratively and reduce the amount of work that needs to be outsourced, and then continue pursuing grants aggressively for major road repairs, traffic safety, et cetera. With that, some of the potential next steps that we could take, if depending on what council's opinions are, would be initiating the bond application process, then procuring an engineering consultant or consultants to perform the following tasks: pavement network reinspection with mobile LiDAR technology. So I'm going to pause on this one for a second to peel the curtain back a little bit. The map that I showed in the beginning, that is the current pavement network that we have information about, but we haven't done an entire inventory of our pavement network since probably 2017. We'd done an intermediate one in 2019, 2020, but that only included arterials and collectors. So there's a lot of data that needs to be included, especially the new developments that exist that we have no data on. They have good roadways, but we need to have a holistic network and know exactly what we're working with. Additionally, with the LiDAR, this can incur large cost savings and safety improvements for our staff. The capabilities of this scanning device that attaches to a back of a truck or whatever vehicle it may be, not only is it collecting the data on the roadway, the ruts that you have, and getting the information of the condition of the roadway in real time and much quicker than you would have boots on ground, but that data can also get turned back to the city and utilized for future projects, so we don't have to send staff out in the field to survey anymore, or survey considerably less than they would need to. This surveying for a project can take anywhere from a few hours to weeks, depending on the scale of the project. And when you're working in arterials and collectors, staff needing to play Frogger on Butte House Road, Franklin Avenue, other areas, it's not the best conditions. If we can avoid that while keeping our staff in the office able to focus on designing and delivering these projects, I think that's a huge investment. And I'll go on updating the pavement management program data with the information that we get from the scans, then preparing plans, specifications, and estimates for a best value major rehabilitation project. And with that, we're open to ideas in terms of, do we do major road repairs? Do we couple it with dig outs that could stretch the dollars further? We just really want to see how far can we really stretch this and get the most value out of the project. And then this last one helps with consistently delivering preventative maintenance projects. We want to have the consultant develop a 5-year plan for resurfacing projects. We budget $1.5 million for resurfacing projects annually, but due to time restraints, staffing levels, we're not always able to deliver it annually. If we have a consultant tell us, these are the areas that you should do resurfacing projects in the next 5 years, and these are what we recommend for the resurfacing methods, that takes a lot of time out of the equation, where our staff could just say, okay, here's our project, let's get it out to bid. So that's the second, well, I guess it'd be the 5th step at that point. And then lastly, return to council for future actionable items. And with that, I know I rambled a lot there, but I'd be happy to answer any questions and take any thoughts and recommendations.
Mr. Mayor, may I add on to his presentation? Okay. Oh, thanks. I know it's painful. Just bear with me.
I'm good.
So, you know, people, when they think of a program like this, where we would, you know, bond for money to spend it on roads, hey, that's great. We get a potential problem taken care of, and maybe dozens of miles of our worst roads fixed, repaired, whatever you want to call it. Okay, good deal. But geez, that's a lot to pay, and you're doing it all up front. What about interest costs, et cetera? So I was lucky enough to have experience doing a project like this. And so we did it across the river. And we did a lot of due diligence like Josh is doing right now, but it was close to $11 million. I think it was like maybe $10.5 million that we chose to borrow internally. And what we did is we sent public works staff, community development staff, say, figure out what we can get accomplished, but more importantly, what is the cost avoidance and what do we save at the end of the day? And that's a really big piece that Josh will work with the consultants on to figure out how we're doing in that regard. But just to give you a scale, so when we did it across the river, and this was six and a half years ago, give or take, we did it, number one, in one construction season. Road work occurring everywhere, from the foothills down to the valley floor. But the projection on the dollar savings, which originally estimated, again, deferred maintenance, claims that get filed, and the list goes on and on. But the actual savings cost avoidance area out of the 10.5 that we borrowed was about 4.5 million. That was at the time we went forward. A couple of years gave way and able to refine the numbers. I wasn't there, but I got wind with a little phone call that actually instead of 4.5 million, it was more like $6 million of cost avoidance and what you're saving. Again, take care of it now before it degrades any further. The cost of construction, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's still averaging about 5 to 6% increase a year. Mm-hmm. So the longer we defer it, the longer we push it off, the more we're going to pay. So if we can take control of this and we can grab it and be aggressive, it's better for our residents, it's better for the city operations. And again, going back to that quality of life, safety, and what you've outlined here makes all the sense in the world. I know we're pitching our own ideas, but anyway, ultimately up to you to decide, but I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that piece.
No, I think the preventive maintenance piece and the cost of not doing something is getting us right now. So I appreciate that. A couple quick questions for me is in regards to the pavement management system, just making sure we're staying in touch with the regional thing that SACOG's pushing with their pavement management program. I know they're trying to get everybody together on one program with the LiDAR and everything else. Is that all staying consistent with what SACOG's putting forward?
Yes. So I actually spoke with David Pape of SACOG, or sorry, no, not Sam Shelton of SACOG, after he kind of let the agencies know at a quarterly meeting what their planning is. They're a little bit further out. We're wanting to take action on this sooner rather than later, but the methodology that we're employing is very similar. And I think there'll be future conversations on maybe partnering, because the scanning isn't a one-time thing. It's something that needs to happen every few years or so.
Perfect. I just know that they're moving that so that there's some consistency amongst the applications for the DOE money. So it seems like not awfully too long ago, it was $1 million for a mile. Now it's $1 million for a half a mile. And probably going up, correct?
Correct.
So there is some urgency to get going on this because it's not going to go down.
Exactly. And I'm glad Robert brought it up. I forgot to put it in the presentation, but I did run some very back of the napkin numbers last night out of curiosity, assuming an inflation of 3% on the ENR from year to year. Over 6 years or so, we're saving close to 3.4 million or so. And that doesn't include what we're saving in economy of scale of doing a large project like this. The value that we get for doing so much quantity at once, it's hard to put into numbers now, but it's a huge benefit.
Excellent. So the question that comes to us all the time is we hear about great road projects, and I know you guys are doing everything you possibly can, including very successfully obtaining grants. If we continue to press forward here, what would be your best estimate of when we might actually get underway with the road repair projects?
I think a lot of that's going to depend on how aggressive we go about this, how aggressive staff or council and Robert want us to go about this. Of course, it's going to take some time to develop plans. This LiDAR scanning and talking with certain consultants, the whole city could be scanned within a week or two.
Oh, wow.
it's much faster than the boots on the ground. They can drive at real-time speed, 35. They're driving at 35 miles an hour while this device is taking 600 shots per second at a point. So very, very accurate, very quick operation versus people driving around, sending a couple staff to do it. But I think in a very aggressive scenario, we can have project plans ready fall. And I'm thinking more realistically, we'd be looking at next spring, but if depending, there's a lot of factors at play, depending on the consultant, depending on their load, and depending on how aggressively we push, I think we can get it done sooner.
Okay. Final question I have is, and this is, I call them traffic calming devices, but every time that we do a good road project, it seems like somebody comes back in and cuts a trench or something like that. And then that trench ends up settling. I mean, this is kind of off topic, but still very important, I think. What can we do to make sure that those cuts actually stay at the same level of the roadway? Because we can do a bazillion really nice projects, but if somebody has to go in, whether a utility or what have you, it seems like it's a problem. And then, they're gone, but we're left, your guys are left and gals are left with trying to deal with a speed bump or speed depression or whatever you want to call it.
So, sorry. A moratorium is what we could do. In practice, we currently do not allow contractors to do any open trench work within 5 years of a pavement project. I think there could be some refinement depending on the scale of work. We have alternates for underground work, alternate options for contractors. If they absolutely need to get in and do work, we can have them do underground boring so that they're not cutting into the pavement. But generally in practice, if in Yuba City, if you pave a road, contractors aren't allowed to get in there for 5 years. So with that, we're also going to be looking at when we get into the planning here, looking at some of our own facilities internally, seeing, do we have any problem water lines, problem sewer lines that we should address now so that we don't have to come back later and cut this open inside of that moratorium period.
Excellent. Okay. I'm back to the council for any questions, comments.
Josh, the bonding, how long are we thinking term?
Sure, if I can address that. So it all depends on how far we can stretch the dollars that we have. And I think it's important to note that you can do as long as you want. You can do it over 10 years, 15 years, whether you're going to issue publicly offered bonds or a private placement, et cetera. But I'm thinking more the 10-year, 15-year. So the revenue source that Josh just talked about, a few potentially, how does that pay the bonds back? So SB1, I'm sure you all remember that, the gas tax, right? So we found the initial problem with that gas tax is you get a chunk every year. It's not like they give you enough money to where you can plan, projects for the next 5 years and maybe do them in a construction season or two. So we took that SB1 money and that's the payback. So you use that money, plus there's a little bit left over to keep doing that preventative maintenance that Josh talked about. So there's your funding source. Might we have to come up with a little bit of general fund money for maybe some of the interest? Yeah, but it's fairly nominal considering what you're saving at the end of the day. So I'm thinking more of the 10-year 10-year for right now. But we'll see what our financial advisors say as well.
Thank you. One other thing, that map you had up with all the pretty colors of the good streets, bad streets, I will note that all those bad streets are a majority in District 3, the old part of town. And my constituents deserve better, as well as I do, because I can literally go out in my street, pick up street and put it in my yard. And it's appalling. And until people realize that if we don't do something now, you're going to be on gravel roads. That's just the reality of it. I mean, it's just, it's going to punch you right in the face. So that's my comment. You?
Good for now.
She's good.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
Josh, real quick, a couple years ago, the 525 lane miles, we were told we had about 150 million worth of deferred road maintenance. What is that number at today?
I can't give you an exact number. I want to say that's also dependent upon what you're willing to budget per year, but I'd say closer to 200 at this point.
Closer to 200?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Thank you.
Through the mayor. Josh, first of all, I want to say thank you. And Robert, thank you. I remember when we talked about this several months ago, a year ago, Rev Measure, that was how we're going to fix everything. And so we had to figure it out. There was a question, and I don't know which one of you might have the answer that I brought up when we first talked about this. And will us getting this additional 12 to 14 million in allow us to have an additional source of funds to qualify for more SB1 money? Because right now there's a whole nother pool that we can't tap that other jurisdictions get to tap when they have other sources. Will this give us access to the other SB1 money?
You want me to try it?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the SB1 dollars that we do get. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, so I think you might be talking about self-help jurisdictions that have access to more money, usually with for transportation funding. I don't know if this qualifies us for being a self-help jurisdiction. That could eventually get us maybe some additional funding as well. But I think back to your, I think the first question that you asked, Councilmember Shaw, was, does it allow us to maybe leverage? I think it is, yeah, absolutely. So you don't have to put all 12 to 14 million into the actual asphalt on the ground, I guess, for lack of a better term, but maybe you use a portion of it if we can to leverage maybe other funding to do some additional work as well. Certainly it does. It just all depends on what Josh ends up mapping out and what your council feels comfortable going forward with if we go forward at the time.
Okay, thanks.
So it sounds to me like you need some sort of direction from us. Is that what you're looking for tonight then, or?
I don't know if we're looking for direction really, but I think with the concept that's laid out for your council tonight, this is your first time hearing it. As your CM, I think the direction is very clear from what you adopted in your strategic plan. And I think what we'd like to do, Mr. Mayor, is come back with a plan that has the contracts to do the study, engage with our financial advisor, and put it all up in one package for you and say, hey, first step, next step, and then we're there. So, but if I'm not hearing any objection from your council, we'll come back with some council items for your consideration.
I guess, go ahead. I'm not hearing any objection. I think the nature of the question was how aggressive, right? And I don't know if I'm pretty, something needs to be done. So full speed ahead. Looks like I got nodding heads across the way here. So there you go.
All right, Josh, you got that?
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right, item number 3 is the public communications, the appearance of interested citizens. You are welcome and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on action items appearing on the consent calendar, business items on the agenda when they are called. Public comment on any other items within the scope of the city's jurisdiction, including items not listed on the agenda, will be considered at this time. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Members of the public submitting written requests at least 24 hours prior to the meeting will be allotted 5 minutes to comment per speaker. Repetitive comments may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. And I have a speaker card from Tony. And Tony, please come forward, and then we'll hear if there's anybody else that has any public comment.
Tony Farley, 1298 Willow Creek Drive in Northview City. Hello, Sandy. Hey, Viking lady. Thank you for your service, Chief Hubbard, the captain of the fire department, the dynasty over there. Thank you, Jim Ridian from Southern California, Huntington Beach. probably the same area where Chief Alexander's at now. He's probably in Manhattan Beach. So both SoCal people in Yuba City. Thank you, Tony, the old school Tony down there. Thank you, Sean Chipping from Fresno. He should be in Sacramento, not Fresno, but your way. Robert Bendor, city manager, former Yuba County administrator. And also Tony, the future mayor. Hope you get a female mayor this time. And Mike Pasquale, vice mayor. I also got phone right now for get dinner out. And fire chief and mayor Mike Bluegarden, and David Shaw, sheriff and Doug Moffa and tally guy, Doug Moffa and sheriff, and Wade, city council, and also Sierra and Doug Libby and his Tesla, and Mike Bluegarden and his Tesla. A lot of Teslas here, and thank you, the girl with red hair over there. Thank you, and thank you, and thank you to the city HR director, former county HR, and thank you the police officer and detective with a sweatsuit over there, detective over there, good old detective. Thank you for your service, everybody. And don't forget, March 24th is my birthday. I turned 31 years old, but I look 16 still. Teenager at heart. Go Honkers. Go Honker cheerleaders.
Thank you, Tony. And we'll try to remember your birthday for sure. All right, next item is the consent calendar. I'll remind everyone that we removed item 5 to the business. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time that the council votes on the motion unless members of the city council request that specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual action. Do we have any comments? Oops, hold on. Do we have any removals of the consent calendar from any of us? Okay. Do we have any comments from the public on consent calendar items 4, 6, and 8? 4, 6 through 8. Thank goodness, no. All right. So back to the council.
Through the mayor, move to approve consent calendar items 4 through 8, omitting 5.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Shaw, second by Councilmember Cole. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent calendar as motioned has been approved unanimously. All right, we will move now to item number, let me make sure I get this right. 5. Thank you. It's all crossed out on mine. So item number 5. Department of Water Resources Urban Drought Relief Turf Replacement Project 24-02 Contract Award. You again, huh?
Yeah, just me. Good evening, Council. So the reason this item was pulled was we had received an objection to the award for the second low bidder. This objection was due to clerical error that we felt that that could be waived. So we have updated the resolution to reflect that we are still planning to award to the second low bidder and find that the failure to submit the signed copies of addendums 1 through 4 constitutes a minor and immaterial irregularity that does not affect price, scope, or the bidder's obligation to perform the work as modified by the addenda and waive such regularity.
For the record, Mayor, those copies are available to the public in the back. We provided both the resolution and the letter and have been distributed to the City Council. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Wolf from the council? Any comment from the public? Seeing no comment from the public, motion from the council or action from the council?
Through the mayor, move to take Department of Water Resources Urban Drought Relief Turf Replacement Project 24-02 contract award as noted.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by the Vice Mayor Pasquale, a second by Councilmember Kirchner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, item 5 has passed unanimously. Item 6, supplemental budget appropriation for upgrades for existing CCTV vehicle. Oh, thank you.
On 9.
I appreciate the help.
Mr. Mayor, I believe we're on item number 9.
Yeah, it's at the bottom of the page here.
Thank you.
All right, item number 9, recreation program fee updates. This will be presented by Ann Gillen, our Community Service Director. Hi, Ann.
Yep. Can you hear me now? Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council. So I'm here tonight to talk to you about increasing our recreation program fees to kind of help improve our cost recovery. And it would be across the board. It would be youth sports, adult sports, youth enrichment, aquatics, and our senior programming. A little bit of background. The Recreation Department provides programs for all ages, anywhere from 4 to 99 or plus. We have aquatics, like I said, aquatics, youth sports, adult sports, a lot of things for everybody in the community. Over time, the operational costs have increased quite a bit, whereas our recreation fees have been minimally increased, anywhere from $1 to $5 here and there, depending on the program and everything. The costs have risen because of the minimum wage, utility expenses, supplies and equipment, and then just the maintenance. And so that our cost recovery levels have declined, and it's actually increased our general fund subsidy. So let's see. Recreation costs, they've built up over several years, especially in aquatics. Aquatics is very expensive to run. High utilities, we have to have a lot of staffing just for safety reasons, and it's a big facility, lots going on. Without doing something, the structural gap between the expenditures and revenues are just going to continue to grow. Current expenditures right now for recreation programs, as you can see, are $1,879,285, where revenues are only $700,475. This leaves a shortfall of $1,178,810. A 50% increase fee increase will reduce the shortfall by $347,118. Although there will still be a gap of $831,692. There's a couple of options. Option 1 would be a 50% increase coming up in July for fiscal year 26-27. This would be an immediate implementation across aquatics, youth, adult, and senior programs. It would be an immediate improvement to cost recovery ratios, and it reduces the general fund subsidy beginning in the fiscal year 26-27. Second option is a 50% increase over 2 years. So we would increase our fees effective in July for the fiscal year 26-27 at 25%. And then we would do an additional 25% increase effective fiscal year 27-28. This would be more of a gradual revenue growth over 2 fiscal years. It would be slower improvement in the cost recovery, but it would reduce the immediate financial impact on all the participants. The proposed fees adjustments are designed to modestly increase revenue while maintaining affordability and access. Based on our current enrollment trends, staff estimates additional annual revenue of approximately $347,118. And that is based on our current enrollment. This is just kind of some of the fees, how the fees would look in the different options. These are our recreation programs, which includes all our youth sports, our youth enrichment, and our adult sports. Those fall under our recreation programs. I'm not going to go through all of them, but you can kind of see like our summer camp weekly would go from $215 up to $323 if we automatically just did the 50%. Whereas if we did the 25 and 25, it'd be a more gradual. Aquatics. and then seniors. There's a little difference in the seniors. Our senior activity cards would only go up a maximum of 30%. And we have received, I was able to work with Sarah Eberhardt from the Sutter Health and Human Services, and we were able to get a one-time funding of $15,000 to try and help offset some of our senior costs. So that kind of helps us with where we can offer those for a 30% increase rather than the 50%. And it could help with others as well, other things over at the senior center with some of the cost. This is our reservations and rentals, and that would be the same for our senior softball rental, field rental fee for their, the seniors have 2 seasons. They have a spring and summer season and a fall and summer fall season. And that would only increase 30% as well. The recommendation is staff recommends option 2, which implements a phased 50% total increase over 2 fiscal years. So the 25% this year, 26-27, and a 25% 27-28. Alternatives would be to approve option 1 or do not approve option 1 or option 2 and maintain current fees. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor, just again, I just can't say no, right? So be quiet, I guess. So I really wanted to thank Ann, Mr. Mayor, but I also wanted to mention this is a follow-up item to something we previously presented to the council. So keeping in mind on the park side, which Ann is responsible for as well, we are 3 less employees in parks. We transition them over to public works, but obviously we have that general fund gap that we're trying to close, and that's a considerable amount. So we've already done that. We've been working with our Parks and Rec supervisors. Most likely we need to eliminate 2 of those positions, which we're going forward with as well. So it's a capacity issue as well. And keep in mind, we've also eliminated, I think, 8 or 9 programs. 8?
Yes.
Yeah, 8 or 9 recreation programs as well. So this is just one part of that. You can see what the general fund imbalance is there of how much we're providing. Not that recreation programs and park maintenance are a bad thing, they're a good thing. But we just simply can't afford, when most of your resources have to go to those functions that are just very expensive to maintain, and such as public safety. And we can't have that, at the level we're doing it, which it needs to be much better, unfortunately, as far as more resources for our fire chief and our police chief. But we're trying to look at all avenues here. This is just one avenue. And I'm sorry it has to be presented this way, and I don't want it to look like it's piecemealed. It's all part of the bigger picture, and I think you all know it's not just one solution, it's several. So I want to thank Ann for her diligence. This is hard for her. It's hard for her employees, hard for the community too, but we have to do something. And so that's our recommendation to you. Thanks.
Okay. First and foremost, I know this was not an easy exercise, and certainly not for you, but not for us either. Our recreation programs, especially because we are regionally the recreation program and our senior center as well. I am extremely pleased at the Sutter County and Sarah Eberhardt Rios, and I'm assuming the county supervisors as well, for their contribution to the senior programs especially. And I hope we can maybe bring them in and give them a personal thank you at a later date. These programs include our quality of life, and I look forward to the day, hopefully not too far away, when we can reinstate programs and continue to provide what I consider to be an excellent program to our community. With that, any questions or comments from the council?
Through the mayor.
Yes, sir.
Ann, could you go back to your financial at the beginning?
Yeah.
Your numbers.
That one?
Yes.
Okay.
The current expenditure for recreation programs. Okay. is that $1.9 million? Does that include the debt service for GAP?
Yes.
That does. And that is how much?
$424,000 a year.
$424,000. Okay. So, and it is aging.
It is.
We're gonna
There's
have
lots of things.
Drastic moves. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering what that number incurred. Thank you.
Right, through the mayor.
Yeah.
And just a couple of questions here for clarification. You keep saying fiscal year 26, 27, but we're talking these fees to go up April 1.
Yes.
As
and that-
everything's getting ready to start.
Yes, for the, like we do have programs running right now that it won't affect in April because we register before April and they start in April. These would affect aquatics and our summer stuff that we take registration for and that we begin before the fiscal year starts. Like the GAP opens the end of May and we have swim lessons and everything going.
Right. It's, it's great that you've got the slide up there. I appreciate all the work you've gone through to do this, but the subsidy that we're putting up every year for this is only going to get larger. And if we move at 25% this year, then we're probably not going to need to do 25% next year. We're probably going to need to do 35 or 40% next year because everything keeps moving. Cost keeps going up. We've heard you talk about it. We've heard Robert talk about it with the GAP, with the chemicals, with the aging infrastructure down there. We've got a slide that actually needs repair now. And how much did you say the slide is going to cost to possibly fix?
Repair?
Yeah.
Close to 100.
Yeah. I mean, so there's another 100,000. I looked at all of these fees and I was glad that the county stepped up and gave us an extra 15,000 because, the part of our populace that, really it affects a lot is our seniors because a lot of them are very strict fixed income with Social Security and their fees still go up, but they're very reasonable. When you look at all the other fees that you proposed with, the season pass, the summer camps, the day camps, the softball fees. What you're asking with a full 50% is still very reasonable compared to all the surrounding communities around us. And my personal opinion is I don't think that we can just keep kicking the can down the road another day because the debt and the subsidy is just going to continue to grow. So I understand you're bringing forward because you love our community and you're thinking of their pocketbooks. But at the same time, I think the best thing we really need to do is just go ahead and do it in option one and raise the fees as much as it's going to hurt. That's how we kind of got to some of these places over the years. We just kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing. And I know that, Mark, you and I went through that with the water and wastewater and everything a couple of times and gets upside down. And I think we just got to be real with ourselves. Option one is really what we need. And you'll probably be looking at another option one next year, to be honest, even if we do option one this year, because costs are going up. But thank you for your work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through the mayor. I do have a question, Ann, and I feel like I should know the answer to this. So as a teacher, I'm like, oh, don't be that person who's asking a question everybody knows the answer to. Do you offer like early bird registration for some of these programs?
No, we don't really, not really.
Okay. I was looking at the numbers too, and I actually would agree with Dave. It looks like a lot of the increase, even at 50%, most of them are still reasonable. And in a way, it's like shortening the time where people will, be frustrated and upset about fee increases. I almost worry that it's going to prolong this period of like people being upset. And so maybe it's a good idea to do the 50% right now. There was a couple numbers that I thought were a big jump. And that's why I thought, okay, maybe if we did the 50%, you could do like an early bird type thing. The summer program, for example, that one looks like a big jump. And a person who's doing an entire summer program is clearly invested. Like it's almost a nice break to give them to say, hey, you're doing 2,500, like let's knock it back. And maybe with some of the other programs too, it's just a thought, but I think to lessen the blow later, option one would be my thought as well.
Okay, now we can look at that for sure.
No. Okay. Public comment. Anybody from the public wish to speak? Not seeing any?
If I may, if there's no public comment, I just wanted to comment on one item related to option one and option two. And there's a little rationale why we're looking at, doing it over 2 years. One of the things that we talked about, we didn't hit on it too much tonight, but I don't know what that trigger point is for people to say, hey, they just push their chair away from the table. I'm not going to sign up my kids for camp or for this program or et cetera. The cost is too much. And so one of the things that we looked at was maybe beta testing it that first year with a 25% increase and say, hey, do we show a drop in enrollment in certain programs? And then we can come back to your council and reevaluate. But option one, we wouldn't put it up there if we didn't recommend that as well. But that was a thought behind spreading it out over 2 years to see if we have any type of measurable decline in folks that are signing up for the program. And it will allow us, Ann and I talked about this quite a bit too, is to collect some data between city residents, non-city residents, and look at that, a good way to capture that mechanism. And maybe there's other revenue potential there too. So that was it.
Thank you. I thought maybe he had to leave or something. I couldn't see you. Okay. All right. So on item number 9, entertain a motion.
Through the mayor, I move that we adopt the resolution approving option 1 rate increases as presented this evening.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Councilmember Shaw, a second by the Vice Mayor. I think we'll have a roll call vote on this, please.
Councilmember Shaw.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Pasquale.
Aye.
Councilmember Cole.
Aye.
Councilmember Kirchner.
Aye.
And Mayor Boomgarden.
No. All right. Item 9 passes 4-1. Item 10, introduction to the utilities rate studies. Robert, are you going to want to tee this one up before I give it to Phil? No? Yes? Okay. Phil.
Okay, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. The item I bring before you tonight is introduction to the water and wastewater rate study. This presentation provides an overview of the system needs, financial conditions, and the recommended next steps. So utilities, infrastructure, and operations. The Utilities Department provides essential operations to over 20,000 water and 16,000 sewer connections. These systems operate 24/7 to protect public health and ensure regulatory compliance. So our infographic here kind of gives you a quick rundown of our water cycle. We start at the Feather River, treat the water, distribute it out to our community. Then we collect it all back, treat it again, and send it right back to the Feather River. And of course, every step of the way, we have administrative support, environmental compliance, laboratory testing, and customer service. So brief background on the rate study. The water and wastewater rate studies were last adjusted in 2016. Since then, inflation, energy costs, materials, and labor has significantly increased, and regulatory requirements continue to become more stringent. Much of our infrastructure is over 50 years old, and our current revenues do not fully recover operations, capital replacement, and long-term needs. This has led to deferred maintenance, which increases risk of service disruptions, infrastructure failures, emergency repairs, and regulatory penalties. So a water system overview, again, it serves over 20,000 connections, which includes 280 miles of distribution pipeline, operated by 25 full-time employees. We treat up to 36 million gallons a day, utilizing the Feather River surface water and or 2 groundwater wells. Our system was originally built in 1969, and the aging infrastructure requires reinvestment to remain reliable. Some capital improvement needs. So the picture on the far left is actually gear inside of our sedimentation basin that controls our flock drive, which is original to the plant from 1969. The second picture, moving to the center, is the inside of Row Avenue tank after our inspection, which is one of our oldest tanks in the city. And then this is a map of the city, and the colors indicate the ages of all our pipelines. What we need to focus on is the red, orange, and green ones, because they're all at least 50 years old or older. So water revenue requirements. The operation and maintenance costs are projected to rise from $13.9 million to $16.5 million by fiscal year 2030. Our debt service increases from $3.5 million to $4.2 million, and we have approximately $8 million annually in capital improvements. Priority projects include treatment plant rehabilitation, pipeline replacement, pump station upgrades, tank rehabilitation, and SCADA upgrades. The reserve targets. We're required to have 90 days of operating reserve and 25% of the 5-year average of CIP reserves for emergencies. The need for water rate adjustments. The annual operating deficits are projected, and reserves are being drawn down to maintain service levels. Operation and maintenance and debt payments are mandatory, and capital projects cannot be deferred indefinitely. Rate adjustments stabilize the fund and protects long-term reliability. Consequences of the status quo: continued reserve depletion, an increase in emergency repairs, higher long-term costs, and risk of regulatory noncompliance. The recommended rate schedule for water. The proposed 5-year schedule provides gradual, predictable increases, aligns revenue with cost of service findings. It would be effective November 1st for all fiscal years, and the rates would be reflected in the January 1st bills. So this is an example of a typical single-family household, and the bar graph shows what our costs are in relation to their surrounding agencies. So obviously the ones in red are our current rates, and then green is what our proposed are. So the wastewater system overview, like I said before, we have over 16,000 sewer connections, 176 miles of gravity mains, 17 lift stations, and 3.3 miles of force main. The water treatment facility was built in 1972 and is operated by 39 full-time employees. And the wastewater capital improvement needs. So top left is going to be our 3 screw presses. Bottom left is our temporary outfall diffuser that we're utilizing to maintain compliance with our NPDES permit. And then again, on the far right is another map of the city. And the colors you want to focus on here would be red, orange, yellow, and neon green, which indicate deteriorating or vulnerable pipeline sections. Just want to highlight all the ones in red are backyard mains. So we have to disrupt residents and have to go in between there to take care of any kind of maintenance. And they're some of the oldest in town. So wastewater revenue requirements. Operation and maintenance is projected to increase from 16.1 million to 19 million by 2030. Debt service increases from 3.4 million to 6.9 million. We have approximately 7.9 million annually in capital improvements. Priority projects include lift station rehabilitation, treatment upgrades, compliance improvements, pipe rehabilitation, and equipment modernization. And the reserve targets, like water, we are required to have 90 days operating reserve and the 25% the 5-year average of CIP reserves, again, for emergencies. The need for a rate adjustment. We're projecting operating deficits by maintaining the status quo. Debt service will nearly double by fiscal year 2030, and meeting regulatory requirements requires ongoing investments. The consequences of the status quo: continued financial strain, deferred plant upgrades, increased regulatory risk, higher long-term cost to customers, and then greater risk of emergency failures. A recent example of this was in January. We had to take emergency action through the city manager to replace the grid clarifier, which stopped functioning, which was installed in 1975. The recommended rate schedule for wastewater. This aligns with our cost of service findings. Just like water, it would be effective November 1st for all fiscal years, and then the rates would be reflected on the January 1st bills. I also want to make a note as well that industrial users are still in discussions due to the large volumes that they produce. This is an example of our typical family home for wastewater. And again, the bar graph shows where we are in relation to our surrounding agencies, with red being where we are currently and green where we propose to be. So the Proposition 218 process. So the introduction has been provided tonight. If directed, staff will finalize the studies and initiate the 218 process. We will mail a 45-day notice to customers, conduct outreach in a public hearing, and if there's no majority protests, council may adopt rates by resolution. So the recommendation tonight is to direct staff to finalize the water and wastewater rate studies, place potential action to adopt rate studies, and initiate the Prop 218 protest process on the March 17th agenda. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Marlar. Council, any questions, comments?
Comment through the mayor. If you go back to item 1, economic visioning, unless we have this in place, our vision is going to go nowhere but until a dark closet. I think when there was a study done by the city, one of the most important things it was requested and was a concern was our water and wastewater. So our citizens realize that that's a #1 topic for them. So I am wholeheartedly moving forward with this so that we can see a vision on #1, because if we don't, we're going to be stale in the waters, is a term that I would use. So anyway, and they've all, if you haven't noticed the looks that I've been getting, all of those red and deteriorated and everything is in my district. So, and there's actually some of the Division 1 was in my district that they're trying to envision us to improve and get better and economically become viable in this community. So with that, that's all my comment.
Good point.
I just want to add that as you talked about your District 1 people or District 3 people and things, a lot of that red for this was in District 1 as well. Sewer is underneath roads. So Josh, prioritize District 1. 2 for 1 here.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
So thank you for that presentation. We've talked about this in the past, and you know where I'm at with this, and you have an aging infrastructure. That first chart that showed the regional rates, the one that really jumps off the map is where we're at with compared to Marysville, because they're Cal Water over there, if I'm correct on that. And you know, we're paying less than half of what those folks over there are having to pay. So this is sorely needed, and I'm all for moving forward with the Prop 218 process.
So I'm going to lean into our city attorney, please. One of the concerns that I have is the impact to our large industrial users, and thank you for bringing that up. The concern I have is you know, what ability do we as a city have going into this to talk to those users, because I'm sure if we do the fully burdened rate, we're going to probably get some feedback. So I would appreciate educating us as to the parameters that we would be working under if in fact we decided we wanted to do something, which is obviously a council decision to come.
There's a couple options available to the city council. One key aspect to remember in this particular case is this rate study does not actually set the rates. It sets the cap on which the rate can be eventually increased over time. And these rate studies are only good for 5 years. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the last rate study we had was 10, 15 years ago?
10 years ago.
10 years ago. So as a practical matter, if we lower the rate studies now, it makes the council have less options in year 6, 7, or 8, because you can't go above this cap. This just sets the cap until you do another rate study. That being said, independent of the rate study, once the rate study is adopted, the city council can come back and look at the actual rates. And they can decide to adopt lower rates for classes, whether it be residential, industrial, or commercial, at your discretion, as long as it does not exceed the cap. So for that first year cap, you can say, hey, we want to do a ramp up period or something else. City council has that as their authority. So there is flexibility already built into the system. So even if this cap is passed, certainly have flexibility. Now, as far as communicating with them, I know the staff have been in close communications with some of our largest industrial users. They've been making every effort to reach out to them and make sure they're aware of this. I know that they've been exploring options with them. As to whether or not you want to do direct communications or rely on staff, that's entirely up to the individual council members. Available for any questions.
Any questions for the city attorney?
Through the mayor. Mr. Chaffin, just something you hit in that narrative was intriguing to me. You know, it's been how many years since we did the last one?
10, sir.
10. And so we've been just capped because our rate study has been old. Is there a way to do the rate study? Because I get we don't have to go. It just sets the maximum so that once you get to year 6 or 7, if the city hasn't done a rate study, we still have capacity to keep up with inflation. Is that possible?
I'm going to give the attorney response, and I apologize ahead of time.
Depends.
Yes and no. It depends. So here's the good news. You can bake in CPI to your rates as part of your rate study. So if you do your rate study in 2026 and present it out, we don't know what the future is going to bring. It could be higher, it could be lower for inflation, but we can bake that into the rate study. That's the good news. Bad news is you can only do it at 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, you're capped out. So it really is good fiscal planning for jurisdictions to keep their rate studies either as current as possible or to keep them at the actual reflected rate as possible to provide them with options, because a lot of them can't get in a rate study every 5 years. It takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of money. And then you have to go through the Prop 218 process, and then you have to roll it out. Like, people will not be seeing their rates. We started last year. They won't be seeing the rate increases until next year. So it takes a lot of work. So a lot of jurisdictions, they adopt CPI, but it's capped out after year 5.
Thank you, because that really helps, because everything we've learned from what was done by our predecessors, a lot of times they weren't the indexes in there. So as long as we can add those in there to where we have that flexibility, if inflation goes up, I'm good. So.
Any other questions? Public comment? No public comment? Bring it back to the council for action. Direct, but we have to have some sort of direction.
So it could be a motion to direct staff as recommended.
So moved.
Second.
With a ha accent in the back.
That's the redheaded lady.
Exactly.
Shoot. I will probably pay for that. Have a motion or a direction from Councilmember Shaw, a second on that direction by Councilmember Kirchner. All those in favor of that direction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, you have your direction. Thank you. And Scarlett, thank you for all your work too. Really appreciate the work. All right, number 11 is consideration of the road development impact fee update. Robert, are you teeing this up? Okay. This does not look like Josh Wolf, though. This is Mr. Libby.
Good evening. So you heard from Josh, our Public Works Director, about the cost it takes to maintain our roads. And you heard it's quite expensive. This is another part of the equation. So we're here to talk about updating our road development impact fee. So we're going to take a little walk down memory lane. It's been quite a while. So 2007, when the city last completed, it was a comprehensive AB 1600 study, which covered the full range of impact fees. in 2020, your council applied the infill rate across the city. That basically resulted in a 50% reduction in impact rates across the board. Last year, January, we brought forward a couple items to you, the 2040 general plan, as well as an updated traffic model. That was a significant item to come forward to your council. That was unanimously approved. Over 2025, 2026, we've been working with economic planning firm called Economic Planning Systems, or EPS. They've been helping us put together what's called a AB 1600 study for roadway fees. We base that on our 2040 general plan as well as the updated traffic model, and I'll walk you through that in just a moment. And over the January, February, we conducted public outreach with the development community. Okay, so the map on the screen is our 2040 general plan. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see there's a red line around that represents the current city limit line. Our general plan actually plans out our full sphere of influence, which is actually a good thing. It informs the public how the community will be growing in the future. Now, when we look at our more focused into our circulation element as it pertains to roads, you'll see a lot of the main corridors, Highway 99, Highway 20, but then the city streets. And we make the classifications by arterials and collectors. You will see, though, that, and one of the analysis that happened as part of doing this update is looking at kind of long-term, what are the city's needs? We're not just looking at the overall costs. We analyzed what can we do to try to help minimize costs. And one of the steps that we took was looking at build out of the full sphere of influence. And that goes out to Pease on the north, Township on the west, and Bogue on the south. And we looked at in the kind of the build out horizon that under the old general plan, some of these roadways are going to be 4 lanes all the way out to Township. Township was going to be 4 lanes. Pease was going to be 4 lanes. And we looked at, is that really needed? And the answer is no. So some of these roads under our circulation element are going to be 2 lane. That includes like Franklin going out to George Washington will be 4 lanes, but then further to the west, it will be 2 lanes. So we took opportunities to see where we could actually cut costs and still maintain the desired services for the community. I would also note that part of a big infrastructure project is interchange up at Pease and Highway 99. Now, another part is not just the number of lanes roads will have, but it's also those future intersections and how they're going to be treated. This next slide shows the gold color shows existing signalized intersections in the city. The blue shows future signals. And there's a few areas of red on there, which those are basically the final determination, what's going to be needed, was deferred to a later time based upon future study. But you can, it's actually is a nice blueprint for the community because they know, well, hey, will this intersection be signalized in the future? And I know one that the council is familiar with. So El Margarita and Highway 20, that intersection is clearly shown to be signalized in the future. So you talked about costs. Well, without a doubt, when you talk about build out of the full general plan, you're talking about the interchange up at Pease and 99. It's a big program. We're talking $636.5 million. Fees are collected per residential unit or per 1,000 square feet of non-residential space. The fee includes a 2% administration fee. Now, there's a couple new bills that came into effect, which really affected how we did this analysis. One of them, and the bigger one, is Assembly Bill or AB 602. It was the first time where when you do impact fees, they're now required to be calculated proportionate to square footage for residential. It was no longer acceptable to apply a fixed rate to a 1,000 square foot home and the same rate to a 5,000 square foot home. So the law requires us to look at how to proportionally apply it. Now, when we started down the road of preparing the AB 1600 study, we found not a lot of jurisdictions had gone down this road. There was one jurisdiction, I believe it was the city of Elk Grove, had actually gone through and divided the residential uses by square footage. And we kind of modeled it after that because it had gotten approved and survived any challenge. And so this looks at single family homes would have a category of less than 1,500 square feet. We'd also have one kind of the middle ground, which would capture, I think, a lot of the homes in our area, 1,500 to 2,499, and then homes above 2,500. Multifamily, same size ranges apply for a new category, deed restricted single senior units. So what you find is that, well, frankly, older people drive less and there's less of a road impact. And so the fee for deed restricted senior units is less, as well as they find that the trips generated from manufactured home housing is also less. Another bill that affected how we did the update is Assembly or Senate Bill 13 that applies to accessory dwelling units or ADUs. Basically, the statute says if you have an ADU less than 750 square feet, we're statutorily prohibited from applying a development impact fee. But if you meet that 750 or larger, we must charge it proportionally in relation to the square footage of the primary home. After looking at that, we're proposing to charge a rate of 50% or of the primary residential unit based on the primary dwelling square footage. So they get about a 50% break. So what does this really look at? So as I noted at the beginning, the council took action in 2020 to reduce rates by 50%. That shows, just single family homes, that's kind of a popular category, shows that the rate is $6,940 currently per dwelling unit. If the rate hadn't been cut in half, we'd be up close to $14,000. So the proposed impact fee is $14,990 for the less than 1,500 square feet, $16,600 for 1,500 to 2,499, and 2,500 and larger would have an $18,000 per unit road impact fee. And you can see that the other categories are less. There's also, point out, a significant jump in the impact fees for non-residential. But when you look at these, without a doubt, no doubt they're a large increase. But it's important we also look at how we fit in the region and into our neighborhood. And that's what the next few slides are geared to show. So what you see is this first category is single family development, so single family residential. You see our existing fee in relation to Yuba County, Elk Grove, Lincoln, City of Chico, West Sacramento, and Woodland. And then where our proposed fee on the left side, where that puts us. And we're not the highest, we're not the lowest, we're kind of in a midpoint. I think it's really important we look at this, even though each jurisdiction has its own capital improvement needs, we need to understand where we fit in the region because we don't want to stymie growth. It's really trying to find balance. So the other category I wanted to look at is retail development. This one really surprised us when we looked at this. You can see Yuba City's current fee in relationship to those same jurisdictions. And then you look at what the proposed fee, again, not at the top, not the lowest, kind of almost a midpoint. So accepting the proposed Nexus study results in development paying for needed improvements to new and expanded road infrastructure and reduces the financial impact upon existing city residents as build out of the 2040 general plan occurs. So it is important to recognize that we have existing projects that are kind of in development or close to, they're pulling the trigger. We don't want to upset and prevent them from being able to development. So it's important for us to kind of take that into account. And so staff proposes that entitled projects with either a recorded final map or active building permit be grandfathered in to pay today's lower fee rate. Staff also proposes that projects where a final map is submitted to the city and recorded within 90 days of the effective date of the updated fee, those will also be grandfathered in to pay today's lower rate. Now, independent of that, if a project comes forward, the city could consider modifications to fees paid for a project as part of a negotiated development agreement as approved by your city council. So just to go over, I guess, again, kind of which projects would be exempt is if your project with a recorded final map or an active building permit, yes, your existing road fee is applied. If your project has a submitted final map that is recorded by Friday, August 14th, 2026, that makes it a big assumption that your council continues to move forward. The existing road fee is applied. So they would get today's lower fee. So the updated fee will fund the capital improvement projects supporting the growth of our 2040 general plan. If you were to move forward, the fee becomes effective 60 days following adoption. May 16th. Alternatives. You're not required to move forward on this, but there is a cost to it. The alternative is not recommended, though. Updating our road fee funds the future road infrastructure planned in our general plan with development paying its way and not transferring the cost to existing residents. Recommendation, introduce an ordinance of the city adding Chapter 12 to Title 8, Chapter 12 of the Municipal Code to establish a roadway development impact fee for new development. Your staff report packet included a resolution that was for informational purposes only. Some of the alternatives for grandfathering that we talked about, actually, I had been in discussions for the last week with a representative for the Building Industry Association. They provided a letter for your staff report packet. I believe he's here tonight. We've had I think some really constructive conversations, which resulted in some of the new recommendations, and we'll be reflecting that in the resolution going forward. So with that, that would conclude my comments, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Libby. Questions?
Mayor, Mr. Libby, infill properties, the piece of property that's never had anything built on it, is that going to, because I 20 years ago, I got caught up into that about an infill piece of property that had been there since 1948 when they put Live Oak Boulevard through as a highway and tore a ranch up. Is that, are infill properties like that going to be exempt from these fees, or will they be? Because they got me for the frontage of all kinds of things because I was on a corner.
The important thing with having any type of infill rate is you got to make sure you apply it uniformly to everyone within a certain area. We treat everyone the same. To answer your question, if I'm understanding it correctly, it sounded like that there was a vacant piece of property.
It had never had anything built on it.
Yeah, so I guess I would argue to you that it should pay the updated fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Doug. I really feel for you and Phil and Ann tonight, and us too, like having to make these decisions. It's not fun. I think, this is an example of a not fun one at all, because it's, you think of the bigger picture and the chain reaction really of adding in water and sewer and school fees and how this is just making things more expensive. And in another kind of, what would we say, just a negative side effect or externality of stuff like this is it brings up the cost of old homes around it. Like all of this just kind of raises the cost of old construction. So pretty soon an old house is $500,000. It's 1,200 square feet, and it's just because everything's going up. But I think that, we're all just part of that chain and cause and effect. So these hard decisions have to be made. And I think we are, as a city, doing the right thing with all of these fees. And thanks for the chart, because I was curious about where we were in comparison to other municipalities. But thank you.
I do have a question. This would be for Josh. As it relates to the construction of the roads, given the different traffic that we're seeing now, trucks, electric vehicles with heavy batteries, et cetera, and I think, this is more for others, guys. You and I had this conversation. You've changed the design of the roads to accommodate for these, for the extra traffic and the extra weight, et cetera, so that these aren't going to deteriorate at the rate that some of our other roads, which weren't subject to these exposures, correct?
Exactly. If you look in older areas of town, if you look at areas that we've annexed from the county, that traditionally the roads could have been, the total section of pavement could have been a 2-inch lift of asphalt on dirt, not even aggregate base. We have a range of different standard sections for roadways with areas like arterials. We're talking 6 inches of asphalt on 23 inches of base. And residential being about half of that, but still in the design of the roads and our standards, we're looking at the traffic impacts, the R values of the soil, and things have definitely been beefed up significantly to make sure that we don't, that our roads can withstand the loads that they're taking. Additionally, on many of the developments that come in, we require geotechnical studies to make sure that if it's an area that was previously agricultural and there may be organics, we make sure that the soil is conditioned properly, and the section may change depending on if the soil is stiff and it provides a good base, we might lessen it, which could be advantageous to the developer. But if it's softer soil or has more organics, we may require more remediation, causing the section to be larger. So we are very in tune with the loads that we might be expecting for the future impacts on the roads, and yes, changing standards for the better.
Appreciate that. All right. No further questions from the council. Any public comment?
Should I start over?
No, you're
okay. We haven't been as active in Yuba City in the past, obviously, but we are hoping to change that. We are the Home Building Industries Trade Association for Northern California. I want to start by saying I'm not here to oppose this item. Not exactly here to support a large fee increase on home builders, but I'm not here to oppose it. I am here to express gratitude for Doug, his communication, his spirit of collaboration with me over this past week or so has been tremendous. As he mentioned, he worked to ensure that current projects or projects that are about to begin are not caught off guard, don't have to change course midway or right before they begin. And that is a huge deal in the home building industry. So I really appreciate him, and I appreciate his openness about what staff could support and what they could not support on that front, and to come to the agreement that he presented to you. I do want to reiterate that this is a major fee increase. Our national organization estimates that for every $1,000 increase to the price of a home in our region in 2026, this number is updated annually, it was just updated a few weeks ago, 575 current local households are no longer able to afford a new home. That means that after this increase, roughly 6,000 current local families, regionally local families, who otherwise might have been able to, may no longer be able to afford a home in Yuba City. So let me just say, starting to sound like maybe I do oppose this. Let me go back a bit. I do want to take this opportunity to thank Yuba City, your council, and your predecessors for the decisive action that you took at the onset of the pandemic to slash these costs in half, to keep Yuba City an attractive place to build and an affordable place to buy a new home. We also understand, and certainly if I didn't before I got here, I did after the presentations today, we understand that these fees are vital to addressing your transportation needs, and not right-sizing them soon could strangle the future that you're trying to build. At the end of the day, our customers need to get to their new homes, and we want to be a part of partners with you in that new future. So I do hope that we can continue to work together cooperatively to develop strategies to encourage growth, address Yuba City's needs without overburdening our industry or further increasing the cost of new homes. But I am glad to have been here today to have seen the economic visioning presentation in person. We want to be a part of that future vision, and I look forward to engaging with you more closely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sean Menard, Mayor, council members. I'm here. I work with a lot of developers in the city, mostly in the residential side. We've been pushing for this fee, not really for the increase, but for this new adoptive program to cover the expenses that when a developer does do a roadway, the fees are covered. And as the mayor asked earlier, and Joffla explained, it's one of the things since 2007 when they adopted the original fee program, the road sections were a lot less. Afterwards, they increased the requirements for the developer to make, more asphalt, more AB, but they didn't change the fee program. So when the developer builds a roadway, we weren't getting reimbursed our credit for this extra cost. So I've been working with staff for 5 years on this. We've made sure, Doug explained how we looked at roads that didn't really need to be 4 lanes, could be 2 lanes. So we tried to cut all the costs down. But if you really dig into this from a developer side, what's included in this fee program when you build a road, it's pretty much 100% reimbursable now versus the old program where you only got like 30%. You build this 4-lane road and you only got 25% of the cost reimbursed back to you. So there's a lot of costs, even though it looks like an increase. I'll just go from the 14,000 that it would be if you didn't cut it in 2020 to what it is proposed, about a little over 16,000. But what's included for the developers? Right now I have 12 projects. We're in the state of, some haven't been submitted yet, but hopefully based on the outcome of this, they will be submitted in the next month or so. But 9 of them are basically on hold until this program gets adopted. Because without the reimbursements for building these major roadways, you talked about $1 million just for a half mile. Can you imagine building a road from scratch? It's like $3 million for a half mile. And so in order to make these projects move forward, these 9 projects, total 12, if you consider the ones that are in the queue, it's critical. But then again, as he explained, there's I'm only talking about the projects I'm working on. I have 9 projects that will be adversely affected by this program. They do not really benefit from fee credits. The construction, the projects are already built. This 90-day, any map projects that have a final map within 90 days truly helps those projects. Out of the 9, it helps 7 of them. There's 2 projects that aren't going to be probably ready in the next 120 days to record their final map. So they'll probably get hit with the extra cost. But one thing I've been doing for the last 5 years is factoring in, I had estimated $16,000 for this increase. I was a little off, $625 if you're looking at a 2,000 square foot home. So I've been factoring that in for 5 years. So anybody that's worked with me has had that in their pro forma. So again, hopefully this moves forward. Again, I wish it wasn't as high as the cost, but knowing what's in the fee program, at least I support it because it does move a lot of projects forward. And if you have any questions, I can try to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Menard?
Thank you.
Thank you. And to Mr. Short and Mr. Menard, we appreciate your willingness to work with our department, our planning department and the city in regards to issues. And I know, Mr. Short, you and I had met a while back. Certainly, we would love to see you get more involved up here in Yuba City. So Okay. No public comment. Back to the council.
All right, through the mayor. I move to introduce an ordinance of the City of Yuba, of the City Council of the City of Yuba City, adding Chapter 12 Roadway Facilities Development Impact Fees to Title 8, Chapter 12 of the City of Yuba City Municipal Code to establish roadway development impact fees for new development.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Cole, second by Councilmember Shaw. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item 11 is passed unanimously. Item number 12, future agenda items. Are there any items that you would like to have on the agenda at a future meeting?
Through the mayor.
Mr. Kirchner.
Now that it's starting to get a little bit warmer, I was thinking maybe it might be appropriate to have a presentation possibly at the next city council meeting by manager of mosquito vector.
Excellent idea.
Okay.
Those little buggers are pesky right now. Okay with that? Mosquito vector will make the presentation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? All right, hearing none. Reports and communications. Following reports, communication items are provided for the council's information. No action can be taken on these items under this section unless the council agrees to include it on a subsequent agenda. And we'll start with Mr. Bendorf. Nothing to report. All right, then we'll go to Councilmember Cole.
Nothing to report except Sierra, thank you for putting on the lovely celebration for Tony's retirement. That's all.
All right, Councilmember Kirchner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things. I attended the healthcare town hall with the mayor over in Yuba County. It was held at the government center. Pretty much all the healthcare providers in the area were there. I think the consensus was that there is a huge demand in this area for the specialized type of medicine, and we need to get more on board with the technology of the era, and that's more the telemedicine, and that's what I got from it. Attended the POW bridge ceremony that I'm sure the mayor will talk about a little bit more. Trends start with, I can read this. Make sure I got this right one. I believe this is transit. Yeah, right. Okay, we'll go with transit. We went ahead and took a look at the mid-year budget report and the fiscal year 2027 budget preview. And then lastly, with the food bank, there we go. Food bank, the big fundraiser that most of us attended, Evening at the Food Bank, was a huge success. Moving forward, they're going to have another Save the Date Better Together golf tournament on June 22nd. And then lastly, Lights, Camera, Hunger, Action, Red, White, and Blue review is going to be on August 29th. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Kirchner. Next up is Councilmember Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not much to report. RWMA, we did go ahead and authorize reclassifying one position into a management role to where that's taking us one step closer to getting in-house executive director long-term with RWMA. And just to reiterate, Sierra, thank you for what you did for Tony. And I just want to say, wow. When you go to that, I got there just at the nick of time, and it was pretty amazing. You could just tell the impact that lady had on everybody she touched within this city, and it's sad to see her go, but wish her the best in retirement. And Mr. Mayor, thanks for seeing the bridge thing through. That was very, very important. So, other than that, onward and upward. Let's go.
All right, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm glad to be back, not a talking head on the wall. I've had some issues, personal issues, health-wise, but thank you for covering everybody. And I regret not even making a lot of those things, but I just physically couldn't. Did air quality control. went through, established the hierarchy in elections and committee assignments and such. So that's all been arranged. Had an audit report. Air quality control was totally sound and fiscal without any issues. However, I did get an email from the director stating the fact that AI now is being used to champion or thwart initiatives. There was some kind of a air quality issue in one of the communities, and they received 20,000 AI-generated emails that when they did the research and called people up, that they had no idea. So this is a reality of what's going on. I hope that they come down on both feet to the person that has done this, because it is not right. So that was air quality control. Arts Council had that meeting just last week. Arts Council is moving forward with their fundraiser. And I asked if maybe we would want to get a table for us. It is on April 11th. It is their Bandits and Bandanas fundraiser that is on April 11th, 2026 at Sutter Theater. They'll be showcasing the area that they're trying to develop behind the black box into the main stage. So if we could possibly communicate and see if that's something we would want to do as a group. Since I'm the school liaison member from the council, I attended their last Tuesday night. Yes, it was last Tuesday night meeting. And of course, I was not on the agenda. So my topic was the student walkouts and First Amendment rights. And I addressed that to the point that I am totally behind First Amendment rights. However, I didn't bring a mob into their chambers. I didn't threaten the safety of anyone in that room. And I just want to reiterate that to the school board, that they've got a responsibility to our community. And since I was a liaison, that I would like to be kept in the loop of that so that we can coordinate at all times with when we have such a very disturbing amount of behavior that went on in our streets for our citizens. My phone blew up because I have both high schools in my district. So I had a long conversation with a couple of the council members afterwards, letting know my concern. And so with that, hopefully that they will start. They seemed very receptive to my concerns and wanting to work. I think they just kind of let it slip away from them, not by any intent, but it just got out of hand. So attended Waffle Wednesday. That was probably one of the biggest crowds I've seen in a long time. I don't know how many you serve, but it's gaining momentum. If you've never been, please go at the last Wednesday of the month. Senior Center, Waffle Wednesday. Starts at 9, but people get there at 8:15. So shout out to that, because that is very viable. I was requested to go attend the meeting that the county pulled together about Del Monte going under in Modesto and the impact that the peach processing or lack of is going to have on our community. It's going to reverberate all across the board up in the North State. I went as far afterwards as reaching out to the president of the Peach, Rungy Davitt, because I am headed to cap with the mayor, that I wanted to get some white papers so that let the legislators know in Congress that this is serious. This is a serious thing that's going on. It will affect the economy for not just Yuba and Sutter County, but for a lot of the North State. So I did attend that meeting. I wasn't there very long. Once again, I gave it my best shot. Also, I'd like to do a shout out for Yuba College basketball. Once again, is at the Elite Eight of this state. They are a group of young men that were envisioned to not do anything this year, and they have stepped up. And I urge anybody that has not gone out and participated watching Yuba College men's basketball, represent our community, please do so. It was a good crowd Saturday night. They are headed down to Visalia, I believe, 10 or somewhere down San Jose direction. Wherever West Valley College. Unfortunately, it's kind of a drive to go watch a basketball game, but hopefully the community starts seeing. If you go into that gym and you see all the banners for 20 some years that has gone on, and it's remarkable. It's a run that I don't think a lot of schools have done in the nation, let alone our little community. With that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Sierra, thank you again for Tony's departure and allowing us to present something to her. It's always mixed emotions when you lose a valued employee, knowing that they're going to retire and enjoy, but also missing them here. And she was great support to all of us. It was mentioned about the POWMI dedication. Today, we actually had a follow-up because Obie Wickersham, 100 years old, was able to make it down. And actually, it looks really great. Walked up to the sign, got some photos, signed the back. So it was good to connect him into the process. Want to thank Chief Runyon for joining me on 93Q. It's always good to have the Chief of Police because Fish and the Chief of Police bond, and I don't have to say much. So Jim carried most of the load. Attended the executive team's leadership training, had a chance to talk to our fabulous executive team, and I know the Vice Mayor will be visiting with them at their next session. Attended a chili cook-off with Chief Hubbard and Councilmember Kirchner. Chief Hubbard and I had the maybe enviable task of a judge, which meant we got to sample 12 different chilies, and some of them more than once. Oh boy. And this was no lie. We actually aligned on our choices 1, 2, and 3. So I don't know, maybe it was a firehouse thing. Who knows? Again, on the Perkins Eastman, thank you, Robert, for really initiating that, and the rest of our staff as well. Sitting in the meetings with the community people, it's been very interesting to hear their comments, and they seem extremely enthusiastic. And as Robert mentioned, this is sort of a cross section of those who actually own property and those who have a stake in development. Did attend the healthcare town hall, as Councilmember Kirchner mentioned. Actually, I thought it was going to be something different than it was. I was hoping maybe for a little bit more discussion about services delivered. It really did land on telehealth, which is emerging, and it does provide access to our community to resources they may not have. That part was good. But I still think that we have some significant issues here locally in regards to availability of healthcare, and I intend to not let that one go. I want to thank the council. I got a chance to represent us at Beale Airport Space for the Airmen's Market. We were the only local governmental agency there, and I'm here to tell you that the airmen, the top 3 that are putting that on, and the CMAC and base leadership are extremely grateful for our donation. So they wanted me to make sure I let you all know how appreciative. This is a place where enlisted folks can get resources, food, diapers, et cetera, either free or at a discount. So it's a very valuable service for those folks. Also, last thing for me was attended a gathering with Congressman Thompson and some other local folks in regards to Calpine's carbon capture project and the impact that would have locally. I'm going to try to get them scheduled in at some point down the road. If you don't know what that project is, it's a big project that has the ability to provide additional funding into our area in the form of levee protection, because they can't really do that project unless we get the east side of the bypass levee completed. So it was half lobbying, half information thing, but it's kind of interesting what they're planning to do. With that, unless somebody else has anything else, we will stand in adjournment.
Recording stopped. truth that comes through.